Wonderful. So, men, good to see you all this evening. I'm just going to mute you all for now. And then I need to unmute Erica because I know I have to ask her to unmute. But I'm going to talk quickly. So, many of you listened to the episode I did with Erica last year. I'd love to know that I knew exactly when it was, but it was last year. And it was one of the 5 most listened to podcast episodes of the year, actually. I was just looking at that yesterday. Um, and I know many of you have listened to it. And I love Erica's style and I love her directness. She doesn't fuck about. Okay. There's not, I like to be a bit more spiritual and a bit more woo, but Erica is straight to the point about what needs to be there and what doesn't need to be there and what works and what doesn't work. And she has years of experience testing in a way that when I was a software tester, I would have been very proud, right? I saw a post of hers recently about a particular type of lie that works really well in the two truths and a lie for with women, which was funny about podcasts actually. And I was like, oh my God, of course, men are gonna love the podcasting. So I'm gonna shut up now and let Erica take over. But I am very much looking forward to this. I'm gonna be sitting here taking my own notes as well. But I'm gonna hand over to Erica now.
Thank you. First of all, David, thank you for inviting me. Yes, Mike, that's the New York in me, the directness, I think. So just so you know who I am and why I am here, I'm Erica. I run a business called A Little Nudge, and I have been helping people with online dating for the last 13 years, believe it or not. So just for a little background and what David was saying with how I got into it and testing things. So my background's actually in economics. I studied economics and I have a business degree, which how does one become a dating coach from those things? I don't know. So separate and apart from that, I was a really early adopter of online dating. I started online dating in 2001 when nobody did online dating, but I was just like, this seems cool, whatever. And then as I was doing it, I, like an economist does, started a spreadsheet to track my own online dating experience. And initially that spreadsheet was so I didn't accidentally write to the same person twice. Now keep in mind, this was well before dating apps. This was, when it was like Match.com, not even OkCupid yet, like there were Harmony, some niche like religious sites, whatever. So, and people weren't using their real names yet. So it wasn't like James, Robin, Erica. It was, like nice guy, Siri. So I kept the spreadsheet with the username, so I didn't write to the same person twice. And then I thought to myself, well, I have this spreadsheet already. Can I track things in here? Like what's my response rate if I write to somebody? What's the probability that person writes back to me? And then if that person writes back to me, what's the probability that we actually go on a date, which is the conversion rate? And so I made little tweaks here and there and this is what David liked, a little A/B testing, to see what worked better. And, I learned a lot from that experience. And then my friends started noticing that I was going on more dates and better dates, and they started asking me for help. So I really enjoyed writing their profiles and giving them advice. And so just about almost 13 years ago, I quit my job in finance to start my business helping people with online dating. It's obviously changed over time. I've had to adapt to all of the different dating sites that have come out. Like I started in 2011 and Tinder came out in 2012. And so things have definitely gotten more fast paced. Since I've started my business, profiles have gotten shorter. People's attention spans have gotten shorter. And so, I'm constantly adapting what I do and retesting what I can. So anyway, that's what got me here. And I'm really excited to share today a lot of the things, I do and what I've learned in the last 13 years. And to the extent that you're able to implement some after today, that would be my goal. So as we're going through today, think to yourself, what's one thing, because I'm going to ask at the end, what's one thing I can implement right after this that might improve your success at online dating? So with that, I am curious to know what sites most people are on. You can type it in the chat. I also want this to be pretty interactive. I know everyone's muted, but if you have a question, you can, I think there's the thing where you can raise your hand in Zoom. So just raise your hand. Like, I don't want this to just be me talking for an hour and a half. I want this to be interactive. So I'm sure if you have the question, other people do. Mike, was that just an example of how to raise your hand, or do you have a question?
Yeah, it was just an example.
Thank you. Thank you for showing us how it's done. So yeah, so don't like wait till the end to ask questions or anything. If you have it, and if you feel, you know, you don't want to say it out loud, just put it in the chat. I'll keep my eye on the chat, but David's watching the chat too. So tell me what sites, okay, Hinge, James is on Hinge. What else do we have? Tinder and Bumble, but I've lost faith in them. None, I hate online dating. Well, you're in the right place. Nothing. I use Bumble, but none. Muddy, I don't know, Muddy Matches. What's that? Hinge. Wilf? What's Muddy Matches? Countryside date. Are these real sites that I've never heard of?
That one's very niche.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know that one, but it's a UK one. Okay. So, by the end, I can't promise you're gonna not hate online dating, but I can promise you'll have some tools to make it work better for you. How's that? Yay. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. And share screen. There we go. Presentation. Okay, everyone can see this fine? Okay, great. I can't monitor the chat anymore, David, so if there's a good question in there, can you let me know? Okay, perfect. So I want to just start by just talking about our agenda, what we're going to be doing today. I can only see a few of you now with your faces. So again, raise your hand. David, I can't monitor that either. So just call on people or just honestly, don't even raise your hand. Just ask a question out loud. I'd rather that. Okay, so I first want to talk about choosing the right apps, how many, how much time. I want to talk about putting your best foot forward in the profile and photos, which is obviously extremely important. And then I want to talk about, we have a little segue in the middle about who we're choosing. And then I want to talk about matching messaging, and how do we actually get to the first date? Because that's where a lot of people start. So what is online dating and what isn't it? Obviously, this is common sense, but I want to say it anyway. Online dating is just an additional way to meet people. It's a screening tool based on things that are important to you, and it's a way to meet people who you wouldn't run into otherwise. The second part's more important. What isn't it? The only way to meet someone. I think sometimes people think it's all or nothing. I do online dating and I meet people, or I don't do online dating and I do nothing for myself. That's not true. It's one tool to use. Just like going to maybe a speed dating event is a tool. Just like going to a comedy show with a friend and talking to strangers is a tool. You know, anything can be used as a tool, and online dating is the biggest tool. I think it would be silly not to use it, but it's just a tool. No different from meeting someone in real life. I hear people say sometimes like, oh, you know, it's just a Bumble date. Well, that's not very nice to the other person, is it? You know, it's not just a Bumble date. It's a first date with a new person who's actively made a choice to go on a date with you. So it counts just as much. Not a fun game to play if you never plan on actually meeting anyone. I don't think that's the case for anyone here today, because obviously this is important to you or else you wouldn't be here. But unfortunately, there are people out there who just do it for an ego boost. It's not bad. And then probably most importantly, online dating is not represented by one bad or good date or someone else's story. And what I mean by that is, you know, all too often I hear like, oh, I went out with someone from Hinge and it was terrible, I'm deleting Hinge. You know, has anyone had that experience or heard their friends say stuff like that? It's just, it's annoying and frustrating. And yeah. And so it's like that person certainly doesn't represent Hinge. You know, that person doesn't represent women. That person doesn't represent people. People love sharing their, you know, horror stories. That's just human nature. That's why the news is what it is. You know, people are inclined to share bad. I don't want that to taint your experience with online dating. When it comes down to it, most dates are going to be fine. You know, some will be amazing, some will be awful. Most are going to be fine. And so it's just something to keep in mind. It's just the outliers are more interesting. That's why people talk about them. Okay. So I have a bunch of sites listed here. This is really just for giggles because most people are using, wait, hold on. Where's the rest of them? I had a whole bunch of others listed, but they don't seem to be showing up. Most people are using Hinge, Bumble, and Tinder these days. Oops, keeps happening. Are there any on here that you're like, what the heck is that?
Yeah, I think some of these are a bit American. I've
Yeah,
heard
some
about
are probably American. You're right.
I've heard about Coffee Meets Bagel. I've never
Yeah,
seen it
Coffee
in the
Meets
UK.
Bagel is not popular in the UK or Europe.
Yeah. I'm assuming Silver Singles is like a
For over
one.
50s. Yep.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. Generally the age demographic, it seems everyone here is pretty young. So
Yeah, I think I've seen adverts for Our Time as well.
yeah, our time, same thing for people over
Um,
50.
Is the league like for famous people or something? I think I've heard about
No, that's Raya.
I've heard
Which
it's
also
like
might be, I don't know if
profile.
that's international. The league ties with your LinkedIn profile, so it's more of like a making sure people have a job, sort of. It's more like a professional one. I find that it's
Right.
Mike, you're snickering over there.
No, I was just like, wow. So yeah, I mean, I appreciate you want your next person to, be gainfully employed and stuff, but
Yeah, it's fine.
No,
It's a
I
fine
need to.
site. You only get 3 matches per day, which isn't very much. It's fine. Okay, Cupid, you've probably heard of. It's not as popular as it used to be. Honestly, Bumble, Hinge, and Tinder are the most popular right now. That's what most of my clients are on. Match.com is still pretty good. I usually put my clients over about 45 years old on Match.com in addition to one of the apps. And then Scruff is, I think everyone here is dating women. I'm not 100% sure, but Scruff is a gay dating app. Okay, so let's start with a few basic questions. How many apps should I use? I generally recommend 2. Why 2? Because 1, I want you to diversify a little more, so 1 might not be enough. And also, anything more than that can be a little bit overwhelming. Sometimes I'll work with people, and when I coach people, they share their screen with me over Zoom, which is always a fascinating time to see what's going on in somebody else's phone. Usually I don't want to know, but sometimes I'll see like 7 apps, and they'll say, well, I opened one and I didn't know what to do, so I closed them all and I haven't looked at them in 2 weeks. I don't want that to happen to anyone, so 2 is a manageable number. How often should I log in and for how long? Certainly at least once a day, if not more than that. I don't want you to go crazy with it. I don't want you to get addicted to swiping. Twice a day sounds fine to me. Maybe once in the morning and once in the evening. Maybe in one of your little sessions where you log in, you're writing to people, like on Hinge. If you're using the free version, you get to write to 8 people every day. We'll get to that later. Maybe one of them is writing to the 8 people and the other is seeing if anyone responded and replying to them. Maybe in the morning you write to the 8 people on Hinge and you do a bunch of swiping on Bumble, and then in the evening again you check to see if anyone responded. Should I try any other platforms outside of the dating apps? Yes. Like I was saying before, dating apps are not the end all be all. They are a tool, a good tool, but I would absolutely look into other things. Everyone's in a different area, so I don't know what companies are near everyone speed dating wise. There are a bunch of speed dating companies. There's one called My Cheeky Date, which has come to the US, but I'm pretty sure it started in the UK because of the name. So look into that. I think it's important to join every mailing list you possibly can where you live. I know for me, I moved to New York a little over a year ago from Washington, D.C. And just to make friends, I put myself on every mailing list I could think of. So like concert venues near you, restaurants you like near you, things like that, maybe like comedy places or comedians you like. So I can tell you from my own experience in moving to New York, I probably put myself on 50 mailing lists. Does it get annoying when they email sometimes? Yeah, sure. But if I find a gem in there of an event that sounds interesting, it's worth it. And so I do highly recommend doing that. Now, sometimes these aren't going to be singles events. They're just going to be events. But if you're putting yourself out there, that's one step in the right direction. That's better than sitting on the couch, because you will definitely not meet someone there. Any question? Again, I know it's really basic stuff, but does anyone have any questions so far?
Yeah, can I just put my sorry, I'm gonna put my hand up. What about you? I know Match is both an app and a website. Do you think you should give up on websites? Like Money
No.
Match, or I suppose that attracts a different demographic, perhaps older and less mobile centric.
Well,
Kind
did
of.
you say Match.com? I mean, Match has a site and an app. I mean, that you can check it on either. No, I wouldn't give up on those. I mean, there is merit in doing a site that you have to pay for because at least you know that people have some skin in the game. And so, like all of the apps that we've been talking about, Bumble, Hinge, Tinder, they're all free. Now, they all have in-app upgrades, which many people do, and give you some benefits. And we can talk about those later too. But I think Match.com is still very good. It just happens to skew a bit older than the apps, and it seems like a younger crowd.
That's a quick question, Erica.
Yeah.
What one that wasn't on there? I don't suppose it's a dating app, but Instagram.
Well, Instagram's not for dating.
Is it possible to use it for date? It's not something I've ever looked at myself, but I have heard of people using it for dating. I've never looked into it. Just interested to hear your experience with it.
I personally would not advise using Instagram for dating. I think it can come off as intrusive, especially I know a lot of people put their Instagram in their dating profile. I would not advise using that and then DMing them. I don't know why people put it in sometimes because they're not going to answer first.
Yeah, I see that. That's a red flag for me if someone's got an Instagram.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a red flag. I'm having a hard time hearing you, but I wouldn't consider Instagram or LinkedIn or anything that's not specifically for dating. Look, if you meet someone out and about and you like that person and you get their Instagram handle and you write to them, that's fantastic. But that to me is no different from getting their number.
Yeah. Right.
So I would not use that as a dating tool. I would use it as a communication tool if you want to. That's all I'll say about that. Yeah.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah, no, just to follow up on what James said, I mean, I came to the conclusion with the Instagram, it's sort of 50-50 to me. Half the time it seems to be people promoting their, shall we say, modeling or beyond, if they're including their Instagram.
I think maybe. I also think a lot of younger people are including it because their entire life is online. And they're like, well, might as well see my whole life to know whether you like me or not. That's not something I recommend. I don't recommend. So you can sync, or whatever word you want to use, your Instagram to any of the dating app profiles. I don't recommend doing that. I think less is more. If you choose the right pictures, which we're going to get to in a minute, then people shouldn't need more until they get to know you. Because inevitably, we all have a tendency to find one thing we don't like and then exclude someone for it. So I don't want to give people too much information. Good question.
Also, what about? I was listening to actually an interview with, I can't remember his name, is there's like a male dating coach, Robert C. Bronson or somebody.
Oh,
He's a black
Paul Brunson.
Yeah, Paul Brunson, and he was actually he did something a bit how should I put it? He actually put black women on Jewish dating websites. Should he
Why?
be? No, just to see how that'd work. And actually, he actually got some of his clients actually got favorable replies. Should you?
That's nice.
Should he be a bit out there and perhaps go for more specialist dating websites, or do you think you should? It's better to stick to Hinge and all the bigger ones because the depth.
I mean, I don't know what specific advice he gave. I didn't hear it, but that seems like a strange choice to me. That seems like I'm trying to game the system type choice. Most people who are on a Jewish or any religious site are looking for someone of that religion. So sure, if you want to be a different fish in a pond, maybe. But no, I would not try to like overthink like that.
Okay, right. I just thought I'd throw it out there. Yeah,
it is out there, and I like him. You know, but no, that's not advice I would give. All right. Moving on. Speaking of pictures, well, I just answered the question. What's the first thing people look at? Pictures. It's no secret. I don't care, you know, male, female, whoever you are. Pictures are the first, you know, barrier to entry. So we want to make sure yours are good. Now I put a lot of these up here as comedic examples, but there's truth in the comedy. So here are the rules for the pictures. Oops. The first picture should be a clear shot of your face. I don't want eyes closed. I don't want you too far back. I don't want you blurry. I don't want you looking to the side. I don't want sunglasses, hats. First picture, I want it to be abundantly clear what you look like when you will walk into the date. That's all people want to see. Who is actually showing up? That's it. The next picture, or somewhere in there, I'm going out of order, should be a full body picture. Just as you want to see a full body picture, so do they. No guessing. The next picture should be you doing something interesting. What is that? I don't know. Depending on your hobbies, obviously. You know, a lot of people like to travel, so that gets a little less interesting the more people like to travel. But, you know, maybe you have an interesting hobby that you do. Maybe you play soccer. Maybe you would host a podcast. Maybe you do comedy. Maybe you do pottery. Whatever it is, something interesting that might generate a question. If it generates a question, I call that message bait. You're essentially planting things there for people to ask you questions about. Recent, obviously, is important. What's recent? I don't know, within the last year, unless you've majorly changed something about yourself, in which case it should be more recent. Let's say you recently shaved or grew a bunch of facial hair. You can't have the profile without that and then be like, by the way, I have a huge beard now. People can't picture what that looks like, so just make sure you get some pictures. As crazy as it sounds, I think about that all the time. I've had my hair long and curly. I mean, I have curly hair, but I've had my hair long for as long as I can remember, partially because I don't want to keep taking headshots again for business. So, you know, you got to think about that stuff. Every time I dye my hair, I'm like, uh-oh, is it close enough? Less is more, 5 to 6 pictures. So some sites require a certain number of pictures. Hinge, for example, requires 6 pictures. The rest of them don't actually, they have space for pictures. Like Bumble has space for 6 pictures. I actually only recommend 5 for Bumble because, again, less is more. Questions on that? I have some examples in a sec. Okay. Again, some of these are funny, but also not. So this one on the left, no group pictures. Okay, I see this all the time. And then I know people overthink it and think, well, shouldn't I show that I have friends? Okay, yeah, I agree that all of your pictures should not be selfies like this or selfies in the mirror. That's a red flag to people. Like, does this person have a life? But group pictures are impossible because no one's taking the time to figure out who you are. And if they do, they probably think your friend is cuter. Sorry. Everyone here is cute, obviously. So what I recommend instead is cropping it. Leave someone's arm if you want. You know, leave a shoulder to make it look like you have friends. Don't overthink it. I'll share later. There's actually, so this only works on Bumble sometimes, but it works on Hinge. I know sometimes if you crop and you're too narrow, Hinge makes you, like, zooms it in really far because it has to be a square. You could just download this free app called Square Fit. I'll just write it in the chat. I don't like get anything from this. It's free. And it just turns it into, it basically adds a little white border on each side so that when you upload it to Hinge, you don't have to zoom in further. No one will notice or care because the background of Hinge is white, so it blends in. I'm seeing if I have one on my phone to just show you. I might. Yes, do. Yes, so for example, I have a client's Hinge on my phone, and you see this picture takes up the whole screen, obviously, but this one, I just put the little border around it. No one knows or cares that there's a border around it, and I cropped her friends out, and it works really well. Okay, so group pictures, no. Sunglasses, hats, maybe fine for one picture, certainly not the first one. Just no one can tell what you look like. Also, teeth. If you have every picture smiling like this or not smiling, we think you have no teeth or they're awful, which would be fine. Just show them off. Be proud of the terrible teeth. Just kidding, sort of. Okay, the feet thing is, I don't know what that is. Next, everything at an angle. Again, show your full body. You know, try not to hide anything. I think I think people are not wearing masks in pictures anymore, but don't. We just want to see what you look like. The last one is a joke, but I found that online and I have no clue what's going on, and I was actually terrified. So let's talk about what to do. I pulled a celebrity who's very in the news these days, especially in America, because he's dating Taylor Swift. So, so here is a good example. Now, he is a professional football player, so he's got plenty of pictures. But here's a good example of 5 pictures that would work. And again, I didn't want to pull any clients. I didn't want to put them on the spot like that. So I pulled someone famous. But first picture on the left, that would be an amazing first picture on any of the dating apps. It's just him smiling at the camera, exactly how he would show up on a date. Next one, I couldn't find a full body, but this is basically a full body picture showing what he looks like, doing something interesting. You see how I cropped out his friend. Next one, this is the interesting picture, the one with the Chiefs shirt and the microphone. You know, he's giving some sort of interview. Okay, so I could just ask, what are you interviewing? Are you doing a podcast? Doesn't matter. Next one on the right, just a cute picture of him in his element. You know, I like to see you in your element. And then the last one, obviously, he plays a professional sport, so I threw that one in there. I doubt anyone here does. But again, just something of you in your element, out and about. If you're out with friends, if you're at a concert, just have someone snap a picture. So this would be a really good selection of pictures, and he would do, I mean, granted, he's a handsome guy, but he would do quite well online with these pictures. Questions about that? Okay, I used this. I knew you wouldn't know. It's Travis Kelce. I didn't know who he was until he started dating Taylor Swift, but now it's like a whole thing because like lots of men are like, but he was famous before, and all the,
Is it NFL player?
What?
NFL player, presumably?
Yeah, NFL.
Oh, okay.
Our football. I couldn't care less about football, but now it's like a big thing because they're dating. Blah blah.
Okay.
Anyway,
I can also see it's actually quite good as well because you like you said you've got the variety of scenarios, but
exactly.
also the variety of clothes as well. You know, you've got
yes,
and the palette. It's sort of like it pops. I suppose it's the weakness of mine because I tend to wear a lot of pastel and blacks and that kind of thing, and I think with my complexion, actually brighter colors would work. But
I think so too. I see you in orange. I don't know why, but I think you would look so good in an orange sweater.
Thank you very much. Okay.
You're welcome.
So yeah, I suppose that's a lesson to learn actually, because people have these high resolution phones and Instagram and that kind of thing.
I didn't even think about that, to be honest, as I was pulling these, but that's a really good observation. But yeah, okay, I mean, people want to see what you look like in different scenarios. But ultimately, at its most basic, people want to see who's going to show up on the date. Most basic.
So
Another question?
Here's where you can be a bit blunt. We were sort of discussing this last week, so it's more about me hiding, because I'm vertically challenged compared to what I consider women advertise sometimes that they look for. So the full body shot, I must confess, is usually a bit of a hump for me. So yeah, just be blunt and tell me to get over it, basically.
Look, I hate that women are judgmental about short men. I hate it. I think it's stupid. Unfortunately, we can't change an entire gender. So all I recommend is being honest. Your height's going to be listed in your profile anyway. I would say nothing more than simply checking the box for your height. And look, if someone says in her profile, I don't want anyone who's under 6 feet, good. At least now you know she's not going to be for you. I would start by searching women who are shorter than you are, because I want you fishing in a pool of people who would probably be more interested in you. But yeah, no, just honest. I mean, look, you can't tell in a photo how tall someone is unless you're next to someone. So just all you have to do is list your height correctly and it's fine.
An observation from Hinge. I don't know the height thing. I don't know how that works for women as well. I'm presuming that for women who are, what's short for a woman, say below 5'2", like 5 foot, 5'1",
Yeah,
There's a lot of incredibly hot 5 foot, 5'1" women,
a lot of incredibly what?
very, very
Hot.
attractive.
I'm having a
5 foot.
hard time hearing. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, sorry, my sound's bad. There seems to be a lot on Hinge, from my observation, that presumably they struggle to get matches because they're quite short. I don't know.
Short women struggling to get matches?
I don't know. Just
No.
do you have an idea on
Uh, short women have it a lot easier than short men.
that? Probably
I'm
true.
5'1".
Okay.
And no, it's gonna sound conceited. Dating is easier as a shorter woman because if you care about height, which many women do, again, against my recommendation, they have their pick of everybody.
I'm with Erica on this because that's part. To be honest, I don't want to go into it too much. I'll try and be as brief as I can. But I kind of already self-filtered. It's almost getting to the point where I'm like, well, I might as well just try taller women, because maybe they have the opposite issue. Because anyway,
I would say taller women have a much harder time. I mean, I have clients who are 6 feet tall, women, and they have a hard time because unfortunately, many men have a complex about dating a woman taller than they are.
exactly. So I was kind of thinking I might just flip the script and just try it anyway.
Go nuts! Why not?
Originally, I'd self-filtered against them because I was like, okay, a tall woman will probably want a tall man, so don't go for those. And as I've already explained to David in the past, the thing that really screwed me up was when a 5'2" woman said I was too short. I'm about 5'7", and I was like,
Okay, first of all, 5'7" is not that short. I thought you were going to say much shorter than that.
okay, well, thank you. But yeah,
it's not a thank you. Nobody earned height. But no, I find that annoying. Also, I work with women and men, and I find myself, and we can move past this in a minute, but I find myself quoting at least twice a day the statistic that in the US anyway, because that's the one I know, 13.9% of men are 6 feet and over. And so I have all of these women who say to me, I want someone 6 feet tall. And I say, okay, but do you know you just excluded 86% of the population? And they'll be like, no, I didn't know that. One, told me she would only date someone 6'2" to 6'5". And I said, you realize it's under 1% of the population, right? So you need all of these criteria and that's nobody's left. And then that person has to like you. That's what people forget sometimes. So anyway, all I can say, Mike, is just put your honest height. 5'7" is not that short. My dad's 5'6", so I pull for shorter men. But
do you?
Just be honest.
One of the questions that I've got is: do you think that your pictures can look too good? So, like, I'm fortunate with what I do that I get to go to events and I like fashion. So I've got outfits where, like, I can go out like I'm looking on the red carpet. There have been times where I've thought women will just think it's like I'm just there for the followers, and also there's not but then also I know that if I attract someone who's interested in fashion, they will find that alignment as well.
Just have a good mix of pictures. So on Hinge, you have to have 6. So considering these events are a big part of your life, I think it's completely appropriate to put pictures from these events because it's something you do regularly. But I would also make sure you post a picture of exactly how you're going to show up on the date. And so a regular picture of you looking like a regular guy on a Tuesday night is also important.
Is it possible if there's
Just have a
time
good
towards,
mix.
just because I put it in the chat, only if there's time, because I've actually taken screenshots of my Hinge profile, if there was time to just get feedback whilst we was on the call.
If there's time at the end, sure.
Cool, okay.
Yeah, but I would just put a good mix that's a representation of your life. Yep. Really good question. Yep, I heard someone.
Do you recommend having, professional photos taken?
Only if you don't have good pictures already. So if you already have ample pictures, no, I don't recommend it. If you don't, sure. I don't want it to look too posed, too professional. So when I have clients do professional photos, I don't allow them to use more than 2 of those because it's noticeable and people think to themselves kind of to see your name, but to the last person's question, what's a normal day like then? So So no, it's not, I think it's a great idea if you don't have a lot of current pictures, but I wouldn't use more than about 2.
Okay.
And if
great.
we do have time at the end, someone write down these follow-ups because I'm not writing them down. So profile, and then I have some examples of men's pictures I've taken of just my own clients. I'm happy to share some of those, some of the professional ones to show what type I like if you are going to use professional pictures, which I don't recommend unless you need to.
Okay, great.
Good question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other photo questions before we move on to profile? Okay, moving right along. So most people are on the apps, so we'll just look at the left side for now. When I say traditional sites, I just made that up, traditional, to mean like a Match.com or an OkCupid or ones that are primarily used on the computer. So on the apps, I recommend short and sweet and quirky. So some ideas, a list of things you like or stuff you're good at, favorite TV shows, podcasts, quotes, whatever. A few pieces of factual information, like maybe you live in Barcelona, but you're from London. That might be interesting information. The quirkier, more specific, and funnier, the better. I have examples in a minute. Let's look at a few. So these are all from Bumble. These are all profiles of men I've worked with. So, oopsie, sorry. These are even a little long. They could probably be shorter than this. Bumble doesn't allow a lot of space. Now, Bumble has the main profile section plus 3 optional prompts. If you're not on Bumble, this probably makes no sense to you, but it makes sense to the ones who are nodding their heads. I recommend filling out the main profile section. I tell all of my female clients, swipe left on people with no profile. I think a lazy profile is a lazy dater. Don't make that you. So I recommend doing the main profile section and then 1 or 2 of the prompts. You don't need to do all 3. It gets to be a little wordy otherwise. A little annoyance on Bumble is that if you have an iPhone or iOS, if you fill out 3 prompts, you actually can't get rid of them anymore. So you always have to have 3. It works on Android for some reason. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these profile examples. So the first one, I mean, I don't have to read it out loud, but I will. Movie buff, New York sports fan, mindless doodler, and decent cook with an assist from YouTube or HelloFresh. Data scientist by day, golfer and hiker by weekends with the best companions, my dogs. It's simple. It tells you stuff about him, and it provides so much message bait, especially on Bumble where the woman has to write first. She could write, if she is good at this, she could write anything, like what kinds of stuff are you doodling? What's the last YouTube recipe you looked up? Where do you like to hike? Tell me about your dogs. Obviously, that's an easy one. Or have you been to any fill in the blank sporting events lately? There's so many options. There's so much message bait there that just makes it really easy for someone to write to you. And that's our job here. Make it as easy as possible for someone to write. Okay, next one. So that first one was my client, Jonathan, in Connecticut, and he's been doing quite well. Next one, consistently doing things that would give others a panic attack, climbing Kilimanjaro, doing a polar bear plunge, listening to audiobooks on 4 times, which actually makes my brain hurt. I don't know how to do that, but also not immune to some trash reality TV. I like this. It shows he's like a go-getter, but also normal. That's a client of mine, Vivek in LA. I think he's early 30s. The first one is a younger guy. He's like 24. I don't usually work with men that young, but sometimes. And then this last one is a guy in Iowa, saving the planet 1 piece of metal at a time. So he runs a business like turning scrap metal into stuff, all in a day's work. Mastered the art of using the sous vide, a cooking thing, and simple woodworking, playing pool, not so much, and animals seem to like me. I like this profile. It's pretty down to earth. It talks about what he does. Talks about cooking a little. He's very good, he's good with his hands, stuff like that. And the animal thing I thought was cute. Questions about these examples? You see how there's a theme? They all pack a ton of information into a small space. And none of them are generic. Like you notice we don't see, I like to go out and stay in. My family is very important to me. I like to travel. All the little generic things, or the lazy, just ask. I'm an open book, just ask me. Let's talk about pet peeves women have. That, no profile, negativity, no drama. Don't put that ever. Don't put anything negative ever. We're keeping this positive and light and approachable. Okay,
Something
question?
I noticed is these are not proper sentences.
Yeah,
But-
I actually like sentence fragments. Again, you have so little space
I was
that
gonna say that, yeah.
just say the thing. Like, kind of like I took a stand-up comedy class once, and I was not very good for what it's worth. But they say in your 5-minute set, like every word needs to have a reason for being there, like no filler. And I feel exactly that way with online dating. No filler.
Mhm.
Because again, people do have short attention spans, and so you want to make sure you catch their attention pretty immediately.
And I
I
suppose
would also
also,
not. Oh, sorry. Continue.
I was going to say also what I'm getting with this is that I don't know if you've heard of a British condiment called Marmite. Some people like it, some people don't. Similarly, like with sample 2, I don't know what the hell the polar bear plunge is, but sample 2 would attract a particular kind of person.
Sure.
Whilst actually the kind of person who likes to, I don't know, listen to jazz and sit on the sofa would be turned off by that. Although he does say he doesn't mind.
Well, okay. So actually, I do want to steer clear from writing a profile to try to attract a certain type of person. Because I get this question a lot. How do I write to attract the type of person I'm looking for? Well, here's the thing. We don't know what the type of person you're looking for is looking for. And so all you can do is be accurate to yourself. Like I get a lot of women asking me, like, how do I attract the person who likes to go to the opera and do that? I don't know. I don't know what that guy wants. So like they try to game it sometimes. I don't want anyone trying to game it. Just be yourself, and hopefully the right person will be attracted to that.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
And so I hear what you're saying. And if that stuff you just said is accurate to you, that's great.
Just linked to that, it's not in relation to the profile, but I just remembered that there's a guy that I got to know through socials who was at one point the most swipe right guy on Tinder, and I've seen him put dating stuff on social media. One of the things that he says is that if you're looking for a woman, for example, who works in admin in a finance company, you can change your pin location to 1 mile from this particular place of work where you're more likely to find her.
That's a better idea than writing a profile to try to attract a certain type of person. Sure. I mean, any of the sites you can, like Bumble, Tinder, you can pay to move your, I mean, you can pay for travel mode. But again, let's just like be honest, write a good profile and say where you live. And the only thing I was going to add is a lot of men annoyingly write like, okay, since we were talking about height, like 5'9", 200 pounds. Nobody cares. If it's checked off, don't list your height and weight. That's weird and no one likes it. Okay, since we're on the topic of like pet peeves that women have about the profile, I'm an open book, ask away, no drama, anything negative. Do you have other questions about things that might be a pet peeve and you want to run by me?
Yeah, like sarcasm.
Yeah, don't put fluent in sarcasm. That's annoying too.
I feel like my personality, my humor is quite dry. And when I put that in, people just think I'm fucking rude.
Yeah, I would not write your type of sense of humor because like also dry means different things to different people. Just write in such a way that gets to your sense of humor. Like I love puns. That's not for everybody. And so, you know, one of my profiles back in the day said like releasing my new single, me. That's funny to me. Yeah. It would not be funny to other people. So like write in such a manner that you find funny.
So, and you don't think that, you know, even if it's like a dry sense of humor or, you know, that's could be off-putting to people that maybe would enjoy a dry sense of humor had they have got to know me a little bit better first.
Yeah, let them get to know you. I don't recommend writing, I'm sarcastic, I'm dry, I'm this. Also, a lot of women take that to mean like, I'm gonna like rudely tease you and you have to be okay with it.
Yeah, I actually didn't mean like writing that I'm sarcastic, but I would try to put things in that were jokey in a sarcastic tone.
Yeah. Write in your sense of humor. Absolutely. And if that turns people on, great. And if it turns them off, great.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's just like, it's that concept of show, don't tell. Who doesn't think they're funny, right? All these people are like, I'm so funny. Well, that's nice for you. Somebody maybe thinks you're funny. I'd rather just read you being funny. Like, I think an animal seem to like me. I find that funny. That's like, la, la, la. I don't know. That to me shows a sense of humor. With an assist from YouTube, that's funny to me. Good question, Danny. I like that. I saw in the chat, I know all the pet peeves that men have about women. We're not talking about that. We're talking about you. I got it. Don't worry, I coach them on what not to do too. We're equal opportunity here. Okay, next. Okay, now keep in mind, this was a woman's profile, so it might be a little like more flowery than I would recommend, but it was a before and after Hinge profile. So she had, I think it was a woman's profile. I'm trying to remember right now. Actually, it's irrelevant. It really doesn't matter whose profile was. Changed my mind about coffee. Well, does that mean you like coffee or you don't like coffee? I'm guessing no because of the emoji, but it's like, okay, fine. My self-care, hiking with my dog, that's fine. Together we could see the world on a magic carpet. Like, what did I learn about this person? I learned that they may or may not like coffee and they have a dog. And maybe they subscribe to Netflix. And when I talked to this person, whomever it was that I can't remember at the moment, I said, I know there is more to you than maybe liking coffee, having a dog, and subscribing to Netflix. I know there's more to everybody than that. And so it's like a game, trying to get as much information into a short space as possible. So we changed it to my simple pleasures. So my favorite prompt, to write this down on Hinge, is either my simple pleasures, or I go crazy for, or I geek out over. Those are all the same concept. I don't care which of those three you use, but I would like you to use that as the first one because it lends itself really well to a list of things. Simple pleasures, in this case, salsa class, the dance, not the dip. Again, I find that funny. A hike, music, nature, margaritas. Oh, I guess it was a guy being the fun uncle. No one corrected me. Okay. And being I like that. It shows that he likes his family. He is sporty. He dances and he has a dog. I learned more. Two truths and a lie. It has to be really well done in order for me to recommend it. Most men don't do it that well. And I'll explain why. I do recommend women do it because it's an in for you to play a game and guess correctly. But this one was done very well. I like coffee more than tea. Okay, so I guess the person did like coffee. No, that's the lie, I guess. Soccer more than football, and shakshuka, which is like an Israeli egg dish, over pancakes. That tells me something, and I can have fun guessing it. And then I'll solve for you if I let this one be a little more serious. You're emotionally available and aware, intentional about dating, and you'll put up my thing for adult cartoons. I always like to have a little levity at the end of a serious one. So even if you're saying things you actually want, I like to add one little thing at the end, one little tag that's funny. So the adult cartoons one, it could be food, and you think a charcuterie board is a meal. And you agree that sleeping in on the weekend, I don't know, I'm making things up. Just something that's you. So questions about this? I'd like for it to be mostly about you, less what you're looking for, because most people think they are everything. And so listing things you're looking for, like who's going to say, nope, not emotionally available? Nobody.
What do you think
see the
about use of emojis?
Extremely sparingly, one max.
Okay.
If I'm honest here, which I think we are in this group, it comes off as less masculine than you want it to.
And would you recommend using the voice note feature?
If you want to, I do like the voice note feature, but they allow 30 seconds in there. If you do it, do like 5 seconds of a really short one. So, for example, if you did, let's debate this topic. And then you might say, I don't know, why lasagna is the best food ever made. I made that up. But something so quick, because people just drag on and on. It's like, no one has time for that. But yeah, no, I think they're fine. They're good. Other questions? Same thing with exclamation points, 1 max. I wish I didn't have to say that out loud, but it just doesn't come off as that masculine. I see a question in the chat. Same for emojis on messaging. Not seeing a different person. Yeah, again, 1 emoji max. I find for men, if you're not sure if it's coming off as a joke, just use a wink and call it a day. That's a pretty funny one, though, that coffee one. I would stay away from I used to use this one a lot, but now, unfortunately, it's tied with some sexual, the grinning one. That one, you know what I mean? Sometimes it comes off a little sexually. I can't, someone wants to put it in the chat. Good questions. Any other questions about this? All right, moving right along. Okay, so I want to talk about next, before choosing matches, and this is sort of a little interlude. It's more rhetorical than anything else. Ask yourself, who am I? So we're going to get to swiping and who you're choosing, but just think to yourself first, would I date me? Am I the person I want to be? Do I know what I bring to the table? Do I think I know how others perceive me? Because a lot of times when I work with someone, they give me this laundry list of things that they're looking for in a partner. And it's like, are you offering those things? No, you don't have to offer exactly the same things, of course. But basically, are you holding yourself to the same standard you're holding the person you're looking for? That's really important. Some definitions, deal breakers, non-negotiables, preferences, assumptions. And then just as I say here, it's important to remember that perfect on paper doesn't necessarily translate to perfect in real life. Okay, let's talk about the why. Let's talk about why we're looking for who we're looking for. So again, we're honest in this group. It's a nice, intimate group. I work with a lot of people who say some uncomfortable things to me. They'll say, I don't want to date fill in the blank, race, ethnicity, religion, whatever you want to fill in there. And it's uncomfortable sometimes. Why is it uncomfortable? Because I'm in a place where do I just smile and nod and say, okay? Or do I try to push them to expand their horizons and think about the why? When it comes down to it, I'm never going to change somebody, nor do I want to. But I do believe it's my job to sometimes make them think about where these preferences, whatever you want to call them, are coming from. I think there is a fine line between preference and prejudice, but that's a conversation for another day. But I just want I want everyone to think about why their choices are what they are. You know, if you say I'm not attracted to fill in the blank, why? Is it because just you're unfamiliar? Or is it societal pressure or other people's opinions? So it's just important to think about, because when we're swiping through quickly or when we're setting our preferences, it's so easy to overdo it just because the preference is there. You know, it's like ordering a pizza. Well, do I want extra pepperoni? I don't know, but the option's here, so might as well get some extra pepperoni. You don't need the extra pepperoni. So it's important to think about that, because I think people are sometimes too narrow in who they're looking at because the option is there to be narrow. Mike, I want to thank you for all of your facial expressions. You're one of the few in the list I can still see, and I appreciate your not verbal, the opposite, your visual feedback. Okay, this was just a joke, but not how we can make assumptions about people. I had this client say to me once, I would never date someone who's never been married before. I tried it once and she was crazy. First of all, never call a woman crazy. Second, I said, have you dated women who have been married before who were crazy? I was just flipping the script. And he said, yeah, well, ton. First of all, issues already. But all I wanted to say here was, we can make assumptions about anyone. The reality of it is all people are different people, as Ted Lasso says. And just like see for yourself and stop trying to like fit people into your very narrow narrative of what you think they should be. Okay, we talked about this. Let's move on now. We talked about this too. In addition to thinking about who you're looking for, we have to think about who's looking for you. And there's two sides to every equation. I have clients sometimes say to me, well, I don't think you understand what I want. I very much understand what you want, but I also have to think about the other side. Okay, let's skip this. Let's move on to messaging in the apps. Also, David, I'll send you this presentation later for you to send out to the group if that works for you. Yes, okay, great. So you don't have to, you can still take copious notes, but I'll send it out. So let's talk about what to say. Now, okay, so on Bumble, you can't reach out, but now they do have the new compliment feature. So technically you can. I'm finding that women aren't loving the compliment feature because they're not choosing you necessarily. So I would stick with not using it. I would stick with just writing to people after they've written to you. If there is something interesting or message bait written in the other person's profile, how do you write to them? Like on Hinge or Tinder or anything else, you can write first. I like Hinge because you can write first without matching, and it gives you a leg up if you write a really good message. So comment on the thing, on the message bait, how it's connected to you, ask a question. The best messages end with a question. So for example, someone throw out an activity they like to do. Anyone? CrossFit. Perfect. So you see in a woman's profile, she also likes CrossFit. You say something like, oh, you know, a fellow CrossFit, whatever you call yourself, devotee, whatever word, you know, pushed over any tires lately. I'm making that up. I don't know what one does in CrossFit, but I see videos of pushing tires. So again, something about their profile, how it relates to you, and ask a question. Very simple. If you see a picture of her in, you know, Australia, you say, oh my gosh, Australia's at the top of my bucket list. Was it amazing? That's it. It doesn't have to be like the next best novel or anything. It's just something to show that you've read the profile and engaged. If you can help it, comment on something she's written, not a photo. A big no-no is commenting on something physical. I don't care if it's her smile. Even that comes off as disingenuous. Certainly nothing physical like a body part or curves. I like your style is kind of, that could go either way, but I wouldn't. Women want to be recognized, at least before they know you, for something they've done or earned, not their body. Biggest turnoff I could tell you. Same thing in the profile, writing anything that even resembles sex is a no-no. So I don't care if it's cuddling. I don't care. I don't want you to put my love language is physical touch. That's a huge turnoff for a lot of people, even if their love language is also physical touch. Nothing physical in the profile. You will do, as, let me be frank, you will get more action physically the less you write about it. That's all I'll say about that. Now, let's say someone has no message bait. Let's say her profile is blank, but you're like, well, she's cute. I still want to write to her. You could say, you seem like a blank person. Am I right? I just made that up. Fill in the blank with anything. You seem like an early morning person. Am I right? You seem like a breakfast person. You seem like a breakfast for dinner person. You seem like just make it up. There's not much you could do with it anyway, so you might as well have some fun. Anything is better than hi, hey, what's up? How's your day? How are you holding up? How's your weekend? I want to banish those from everyone's vocabulary in the course of messaging also. There's so many how's it going? How's it going? You don't care. Nobody cares. And then the only options are I'm working, I'm tired, I'm relaxing, I'm doing laundry. That's it. That's all anybody ever says to how's it going. It is the most boring conversation ever. I would rather you talk about any topic. Any topic. Questions on this?
It's interesting that you said that you'd be better to comment on what they've said than what they've got in their pictures, because I heard it somewhere on another dating coach say it the other way, and I think it was because if it's a picture, there's more in there that you can comment on. Like I don't know if, like, because I'm into fashion, so if I notice that a woman has matched accessories, that's something I'll notice and I might comment on it, for example. Do you think that's more personal than just her saying, I don't know, I like to walk my dog?
I would still comment on something she's written versus a picture. Now, I understand you're in fashion, so that's a little bit different. But again, I like your style. That could go either way. That's a nice way to say, I like how you look, basically, without being yucky about it. It's just so many women get disgusting comments about their physicality that it's just like, I don't want you falling into that, even inadvertently.
Sometimes I've asked, like, if I don't know if she's wearing something, and I'll be like, what inspired you to buy those earrings? To try and, I know I don't want to steer, I'd obviously, there's got to be a way that you kind of say it, but yeah, I can try it your way. It's just not something that I've tended to do.
I understand, and I think that's unique to your profession or interest. Yeah, I would still comment on something she's earned or done. Now, I understand you can say it's a skill that she's matching all that stuff, and you can notice it, but start with, I like your style, if you're going to go in that direction. But yeah, no, I'm still going to give the advice to comment on something she's written if you can.
Sure.
I suppose the thing about if something she's written, it means that you've actually had to read it whilst.
That's correct.
And you paid more attention to profile rather.
100%. 100%. It's a number of men who just like the first Hinge picture is like, all you have to do is write basic sentences and you're already better than 90% of the people. Which is sad, but true. So if she's written something about being in fashion, that's great. But relate it to you, because also if I got a message saying your earrings match your shirt, like what inspired you, I would wonder for a minute, like what's going on here if I don't know that you're in fashion. And so make sure that's also in your profile and abundantly clear, because otherwise it just comes off as a little odd. You know? Because I don't know why you care. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's a great question. But yeah, she likes to know that you've read the profile, because it's just too easy to like a picture. Also on Hinge, I know you can only, you have choices. You can like a picture or you can write a message. I would write every message. I would never just like a picture. Also, if someone likes a picture of yours and doesn't write you a message, when you like her back, write her a message, because everyone's phones are just chock full of no one talking. And if you're not on Hinge, I realize this might not make sense, but it will if you go on. What's next? Do I have examples? Okay, how do you get from the messaging to the date? This is really important. This is where a lot of people get stuck. Okay, so avoid pen pals, suggest a date after just a few messages, and I'm going to give you language that you can use to do that, a template. Respond in a timely fashion. People, if you've listened, like, people give different advice for this. If you've listened to other dating coaches, they will tell you different things. I'm very adamant about the advice I give here, which is to arrange the entire date, time, date, and location within the dating app before you exchange numbers. Why do I recommend that? Because things go awry when you exchange numbers sometimes. Either somebody just won't text back, or there's no urgency anymore. You can't reference someone's profile. Someone says something that gets misconstrued. Huge pet peeve of women is when you just shove your phone number at her. Like, oh, I don't check this app much, text me. No, don't make her do all the work. Don't do that. So the best thing you can do is arrange the date within the app. So after a few messages, here's what you can say, and I have some examples on the next slide. But I'm enjoying this conversation. Would you be interested in meeting for, I'll just say a drink, but fill in the blank with whatever you want, for a drink next week? So simple. Someone has a question? Or someone's just moving around. Okay. If you need to cancel or reschedule, do so with ample time. Don't ever, I know no one here would do this because you're very intentional about dating, which is why you're here, but don't ever just unmatch someone before a date if you change your mind. That's horrible. It happens, men, women, it's just horrible. Just be good people. Okay. Again, I call texting the death of the first date because texting is where dates go to die. So here's why. I already said this. Someone just stops texting or gets boring. There's a higher chance of offending someone before they know you. You have a false sense of intimacy before you get to a date. But do confirm one day before the date, or else she thinks you're not coming. I'll just move to the next one. You're going to suggest meeting. Okay. So how do you suggest meeting? Do it in a casual, non-aggressive way. I'm really enjoying, like I just said, I'm really enjoying our conversation. Would you like to meet for whatever, to get to know each other or whatever next week? Then she'll say yes. Yes, that sounds great. Now you have buy-in. Now you say, would Tuesday or Wednesday work for you? Huge pet peeve of women when men don't take charge. You don't have to be as aggressive about it, but you're going to be decisive. Sexiest thing about men is when they're decisive and confident. If you don't know her area, so I always recommend meeting in an area that's more convenient to her. Say to her, is there an area that's most convenient to you? Or if you're on the app, on Hinge, for example, you can see their neighborhood. Is there a spot you really like? If not, I'm happy to do some research. That works really well. And then you research. You go on Google Maps. You read Yelp reviews. Even if she doesn't like the spot, the effort will always be appreciated. Questions? I feel like this is a big one. We should have questions here.
One of the things that I know has come to my mind with this is that when you're saying, would you like, obviously women like confident men. And I've heard it the other way in terms of asking, you know, would you like to do this? Are you free here? It's not done in a confident way.
I never recommend saying, let's do this. It's bossy.
Okay.
I always want you to get buy-in first.
Okay.
Let's do this is a little, I'd be like, no. Ugh. Would you like, ask someone on a real date? There is merit in just asking someone on a real date. People don't do it enough anymore. Would you like to meet is extremely confident. Let's or we should, I find that to be weaker. Someone just asked if you should do a phone call or a video beforehand. If you live close, I would recommend going on the date. I think there's no substitute for in person to see if you have chemistry. If both people prefer a phone call, fine. If you're going to do a call, make it a video so at least you can see each other's faces. It's not my recommendation, but I understand that people enjoy that.
Can you hear me okay?
Nope. Okay. Talk.
I don't know why my sound's so bad today. She's right. Yeah, I've had a lot of success with that. I've found that a lot of women receive that very well.
Which part?
Having a phone call first.
That's fine.
Yeah, it seems to work. Usually like, 15-30 minutes and then suggest a date at the end, or sometimes if
totally fine.
It saves wasting a lot of time because you go on a date, it's half a day out of both of your time, and you don't waste it by doing that quick screening call.
I don't see meeting a new person as a waste of time. I know everyone's so worried about wasting their time. I'd rather you just go and know, but I understand that people enjoy phone calls and videos and stuff. Again, I just think there's no substitute for in person. I think it's really,
I agree, yeah.
You're lacking a dimension on the phone. Some people are terrible on the phone. So it goes both ways. I mean, we all know the only reason to do a phone call is to rule people out. Yeah, I'd rather you not.
I usually phrase it like, do you want to speak on the phone first to see if there's, some connection there, and then decide if you want to meet in real life.
I understand that people enjoy that. It's not the advice I give, but I respect if that's your choice.
That's why I asked you, would it possibly be more of a UK thing than a US thing?
No, I mean, people here sometimes do that too. I would say though, if you are arranging a phone call, again, which is a fine choice, I would make it a video to the extent that you feel comfortable, so at least you can see each other's faces. Most of the apps have in-app video functions, but what I will say is I would arrange a phone call exactly how you would arrange a date with a specific time and
Yeah,
day.
exactly. Yeah.
That's really important
Yeah.
because a nebulous phone call never happens. So as long you can still use these exact pointers for whether it's a phone call or a video. Now, James, it sounds like you're doing it really well, where you're suggesting a date while you're on the call. I would definitely recommend doing that if you are doing a call first, because the last thing you want is to have to play phone tag or send a million texts after to figure out when you're meeting.
But I think it shows a lot more confidence. Well, if you actually ask someone physically, I would say, would you like to meet up?
Yeah.
For the weekend. I've been really enjoyed chatting to you over the last.
Yeah, that's
20
perfect.
minutes. Do you want to
That's a
meet up
great way
on
to do it.
Saturday? Yeah. And the feedback that the results I had from that, it works quite well. Women seem to receive that quite well in my experience.
That's great. I just have had so many experiences with clients where they go on a date and they actually do really enjoy themselves, and they said, "Oh, I probably wouldn't have picked this person, or I wouldn't. I'm glad I skipped it." So I see it both ways.
I've had it before where women haven't wanted to give me their number because it's too soon, but I've also had it, and this is the only time that it's happened, but like me and this woman matched and we hardly messaged on the app. We just met up for a date and we were sitting in a bar for 3.5 hours talking, and there was such a feeling of like naturalness, just like we haven't even had the conversation. Now we're having the conversation in person. So you skip all of that stuff, which was a real thing for me. But it hasn't happened since then.
I mean, again, there's merit to both. I think there's something nice about not knowing too much about someone in advance, where you can actually just get to know each other. And even if it's a bad date, it's like, is it really a waste? Okay, it's an hour of your life. Everyone's young here. We have lots of hours to go. So again, I see both sides of it. I also try to not put too many obstacles to get to the first date. So every additional step, a phone call, a video, what have you, that's just another obstacle to get there. I just want people going out and meeting people. I will say, does it increase the number of like meh dates you go on if you skip all of that? Yeah, probably. But in absolute terms, if you're going on more dates, there's a higher probability of you liking someone. So I see both sides. I still give the advice to just get to the date, but James, it sounds like you're doing the call really well.
Another thing that I wanted to ask, and if it's mentioned later on in the slides, it's fine. But I've had issues where women have matched and they just don't reply back when I message. Yeah. I've also had it where we've built up a really good initial conversation. It feels like there's a flow, and then there's just no reply, or they just disconnect, and like it's come out of the blue.
I have advice for that. That's a common annoyance, not just for men, for everybody. So sometimes people just don't answer and you're like, why bother? And I don't have an answer for that. I don't know. I will say, to your other point, let's say you're having a really nice back and forth and then she just disappears. I recommend saying something like, hey, I had really been enjoying our conversation. Just wanted to check in to see if you're still interested in connecting. Write that one down. Because if you already have a nice little rapport going, you should check in. Who knows why? Who knows what's going on the other end? It never hurts. And often they'll respond with, oh my God, I'm so sorry I got so busy. And then at that point, you ask her out.
And when you're messaging, do you think it's best to just stick to, if you're asking her something, say there's a few things that have caught your eye, is it better to just ask her about one particular thing? Because if it's too many, then maybe she'll take too long.
Yeah, I would stick with a topic, and a topic is always better than a generic, like we were talking about earlier, like how are you, how's your day, how's it going? That never goes well. But
what I'm asking is, say there's 2 or 3 things that she's mentioned, do you just ask her about one of those things?
I mean, you don't want to ignore parts of her message, so I don't know, use your best judgment.
As in a first message, though.
Oh, a first message, one thing.
Okay.
Stick with one thing. Don't overwhelm her. Also, I like putting, if you drink alcohol or coffee or whatever, I like putting what you like in the profile. I also recommend that to women because then it makes it really easy to transition the conversation to that beverage. And then you can ask her out for that beverage. So if you're already talking about margaritas or IPAs or whatever you drink, you can, I've been wanting to try this place. Would you like to go? If not, then you're going to use the, hey, I've really been enjoying our conversation. Would you like to meet for a drink next week?
One final question is, where there's been no reply, how long do you recommend leaving it before you follow up?
Oh, I don't know, a week.
Okay.
So here's how I want the trajectory of, I'm gonna stop the share for a sec so I can be bigger. Here's how I want the trajectory of the conversation to go. You start out, you ask a question about whatever you ask in the profile. You start having a conversation about that. You go back and forth a few times. And then I'm gonna read an example. Okay, where is it? I'll just read an exact example of something that worked. Boop, boop, boop. We're getting there. Okay. So this client is actually now in an exclusive relationship with this woman. So perfect example. I wish I could share my phone screen, but I feel like that would take too long. Can I do that? Let's see. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to read it. So okay, so she said something in her profile about, okay, so I went against my own advice here, and he wrote cute pair about the woman with her dog. Okay, so it was a comment on the picture. And she wrote, hi, I'm Sarah Jane. It's nice to meet you, which wasn't much. Nice to meet you too. Love the positive energy. What's your pup's name? And she had a picture of her doing acrobatics in her profile. So he did say, and very impressive acrobatics. So kind of to your question about Garish, about the, it was actual substance in the picture, not just about the body. Then she says, thank you. His name is River. You like country music? You're a rare find. Do you have pets? He said, I like to think I'm pretty rare. I have a dog, Graham, mainly for the kids. It's a small one. I generally prefer bigger dogs. And then her profile said, I like to get drinks instead of chatting. So he wrote, since your profile was pretty straight to the point about not texting and preferring to meet, would you like to meet sometime for a drink? I'm actually free tomorrow if you are. I have a work event downtown, blah, blah, blah. And she said, I'm sure you are. Thank you for respecting that. I don't like texting, blah, blah, blah. They made the plans. He said, perfect. Looks like you're in Ballard. How about the Barrel Thief at 6 p.m.? So he looked up her neighborhood, found a place. That is confidence. And she said yes. And now they've been out 5 times. And he just texted me that they were exclusive and I don't have to work anymore. So, yay. So you see sort of the funnel. You talk about one topic, you get a little more narrow, a little more narrow, a little more narrow, ask someone on a date, be confident, confirm, the end. I'm sure I have plenty more examples I can show, and I'm happy to. I probably have one. Okay. I wasn't planning on sharing these examples, but I think they're really helpful. I should ask, are they helpful? Yeah. I'll find one more. Let's see now. Ask questions while I'm searching. Any questions?
Sorry, I was on mute, so you can hear me. I was just going to say, we've had Zoom for years. No, I like this idea of a funnel because I think the problem with me is
Yes.
and then there isn't a sort of like a direction to go really. So
Exactly. Okay, let's see if this is a good one. I don't know if this is going to be a good one, but we'll see what happens. Share. Okay, so this was on Bumble, and you can see it's. Can you see it?
Yeah.
I just copied and pasted the conversation. So, the orange or yellow is the girl. And then my client is the guy. So she wrote, hey, sorry to hear you're a New York sports. Oh, so this was the first profile example, actually. So this is in response to that profile, the one that said New York sports fan, mindless doodler. Okay. She wrote, sorry to hear you're a New York sports fan. P.S. Your dog is cute. He, I guess, missed it over the weekend, so he rematched with her. Hey, Christy, sorry I missed it. He upgraded to read it, which is a compliment. I'm actually in Las Vegas this week for Formula One to answer your question, sports team. And thanks, Tulip and Zeus say thanks. Cute. It's his dog's name. He used one emoji. They're not internet famous, but I'm glad they make the cut in your eye. Are you a dog owner or just an admirer? It's a really nice conversation. Good morning. Even upgraded for my message. See, she liked that. Those are adorable dog names, blah, blah. She's talking about Disney. He's being cute with her. You're totally a Disney adult. So do you watch Wheel of Fortune every night? She said that in her profile. They go back and forth. And then here he says, also, I have a good feeling. Here it is. Also, I have a good feeling we'll get along. Disney aside, just kidding. Would you like to grab a drink with me when I'm back early next week, like Monday or Tuesday? Might be nice to meet before Thanksgiving if you're around. She says, hey, Jonathan, blah, blah. And then they make the date, and that's it. Yeah? So you see a funnel again. They were talking about dogs and Disney, and then he didn't use the I'm enjoying our conversation. He used the I have a feeling we'll get along. Same thing. If you don't have a natural segue, use those. Did I have anything else in the slides I wanted to talk about? Let's see. Probably. Share my screen again. Boo, boo, boo. Okay. Here we go. Last few. Oh, gee whiz. Sorry. Hope I'm not giving anyone whiplash. Okay. Things not to do on a first date. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. Don't have your phone out. I'll send this out after. Just like be a good person and nice to people. I think that's the gist of it. Safety tips. Honestly, women ask for more of this than men do, but I'll let you read this later. Now, let's end on this note. How do you end a date? Let's say you just don't like each other. Fine. It was nice meeting you. Have a good night. I don't believe follow-up is required after that, if it's like pretty obvious that it's mutual. Now, let's say you like each other. Had a great time, love to do it again, I'll be in touch tomorrow. Why do I suggest that language versus just setting up the date in person? Because sometimes women don't like to be put on the spot. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they're really excited you ask them out again on the spot. But I like to give people a little one night to sleep on things. So, had a great time, love to do it again, I'll be in touch tomorrow. Then, when you get in touch tomorrow, you are a man of your word. And that is even better. So you'll reach out and you say, hey, I had a great time last night. Are you open, whatever, next week for date number 2, or however you want to say it. That's the best thing you can do. Be very obvious that you want to do it again. Say when you will reach out. Actually reach out. That's how to do it. Now, let's say you're not sure how you feel. You know, say it was nice chatting with you. Have a great night. And then follow up if you want to. Now, let's say the woman reaches out to you after and says, I had a great time. Let's do it again. And you're not into it. The best thing you can do, the only suggestion I have, is to answer very kindly with the response at the bottom. Unfortunately, I just didn't feel the connection I was looking for, but I wish you the best. If someone makes themselves vulnerable to you, and what do I mean by that? I mean, asks you out again or indicates an interest in going out again, then it's important to let them down gently and not just disappear. We did it. I think that's it. Wow, we did it. What did I do with my phone? Here it is. Look at that, 3:27 my time. We have 3 minutes for questions.
I've got one, if that's okay to ask.
It is so great to ask. I know we only have 3 minutes and someone asked to share their hinge, which we won't have time for, unfortunately.
That's fine.
I mentioned it in the chat, but because I'm neurodivergent, I don't know whether or not it's worth putting that in my profile or letting her know on a date, just so they know whether or not if it's something they've got, not to say they've got an issue with, but if it's something they might be a bit uneasy with, should I use that as a filter? So if they're not, if they have feelings about it, which I can't control, and I'm not going to judge them on it, is it
Right.
worth putting on a profile just to know who's interested and who's not?
That's a really good question. I must have missed that in the chat. I can't tell you.
Yeah,
I think you should do what you feel most comfortable with.
sure. Always.
There's so much variation in neurodivergence that
Yeah.
on the one hand, I think someone would appreciate you sharing, but on the other, there's so much nuance that I don't want someone necessarily making assumptions about you that aren't correct.
Yeah.
So I want you to do what you feel comfortable with. I know
Okay.
that's a non-answer, but I mean,
Yeah.
that's why they call it a spectrum, right? Because there's so much.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just
One
one
of
of the things where they don't know what, not getting themselves into, but at least if, it's just one of those things where, communication, right? If they're neurodivergent, they say on their profile, okay, cool, that's a common
Right.
ground, so it's just one of
Well,
those things.
sure.
Like, yeah.
And I think if like you misinterpret something, I think it would help explain that. I don't want someone making judgments necessarily before they've gotten to know you. So I can't answer that one.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you anyway.
Yeah.
In terms of the Hinge matches, where I've got matches where there's been no reply after repeated things, and I feel like
No more. If you do twice, just unmatch.
it's fine to unmatch, because sometimes
Oh,
I've been
yes.
just okay.
Yes, unmatch. Save yourself the misery of looking at someone who didn't write back to you. No, if you try twice, just
Yeah.
unmatch.
Okay.
Also,
I just
if
didn't
you
want to
make them-
ghost them.
If they didn't answer you, you're not ghosting. Unmatch them. Also, if you accidentally match with someone, just unmatch right away before any messages. It's not very nice to just leave people in there. Because women will ask me, like on Bumble, they'll be like, I don't understand. He matched with me. Why is he not answering? Because he probably did it by accident. I have to be the bearer of terrible news sometimes. So just like,
See, I had that recently where I saw somebody who matched with me after a while, and I realized that they're not my type. But I messaged them to tell them and wish them
God,
well
don't-
and stuff, because I
don't
didn't
do
want to
that.
ghost them.
no, that's not nice. No,
But
to
I
match
thought
with
it was
someone
the
and
other.
then be like, my mistake. I don't like you. No.
I
no.
thought. See, the thing is, I thought that if I just unmatched, then she would be like, "Oh, guys are idiots. Why do they just match?" And then I saw it the other way around.
I would rather her think you're an idiot than think you're rude for accidentally matching with her and then being like, you're not my type. Peace. That's not nice.
Okay.
Sorry. I know that was blunt of me.
No, it's good. It's good advice.
Well, that's all we have time for, David.
Yeah. Thank you, Erica.
I did want to ask, what's one thing people are going to implement? It's not required, but if you want to shout one thing out.
I'm actually going to join Hinge. I think the thing is I've been slowly battered by lack of success on dating profiles, and for the way you talk about Hinge, it sounds like it
I
suit
think
me
that would be
quite
the
well.
one to do. My male clients have more success on Hinge than any other site. Samuel?
I'm going to change my words that I've written.
Okay, goody.
think
Samuel,
I'm-
you had your hand up?
Yeah, I was going to say everything. I'm not sure if that's a bit of a cop-out answer, but that's it. Yeah, it's been
Great.
gold. So thank you so much. It's
Oh my
been a
gosh,
real-
of course.
real-
Of course.
Yeah, thank you, Erica. It's been really, really helpful. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh my gosh, of
Really
course.
appreciate
Of course.
it.
I love doing this. I love working with men too. I feel like, again, it is partially New York, but I feel like I can be more direct sometimes.
But thank you, Erica. And when I do join Hinge and set it up, I'll set it up with the
Perfect.
suggestions you made. But the main thing is I'm going to try and be less wordy in my profile.
Perfect. Excellent. I hope you and your 5'7" self have the best time. All right. David, anything we need to do to wrap up?
No, I was just going to say big thank you to Erica for all this
Thank
wonderful
you.
wisdom. And then I
Yeah,
will be
thank you.
dropping an email later on tonight when I'm going to
Don't
give you
send
a bit
that
of
to me today.
homework, to do between now and our next session, based on what I've heard Erica say. But thank you everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Erica, for your time.
Bye.
Bye,
And
Erica.
I'll see you
Thank
guys
See you
all
later.
next week.
Bye, David. Take care.
Bye, Erica. Bye,
Thank
David.
you, Erica. Thank you,
you all.
David.
Let's see everyone.